another Writing Diversely live stream. This month you guys are getting two, so special month. So for anyone who doesn't know, this month is Spinal Muscular Atrophy Awareness Month, which is a disability that I have. And so was talking with Holly over here. She will be interviewing me today, and to talk about what writers should know when writing SMA characters. I've done two of these interviews before with others that have SMA. So if you want to check them out, they'll be in the description below. Yeah, but everyone's experience is different. Like I say all the time, no group is a monolith. So I'll be sharing my experience, and you can kind of see if you've seen the other two videos or if you watch them after, you can kind of see how each of our experiences compare. Because I believe my other two interviewees were both type 2 SMA, which is what I have as well. So can kind of compare our experiences. So this, I should go back and say, if you don't know, this is Holly Davis. I'm going to let Holly introduce herself.
Hello, everyone. You might recognize me from the Diversity is Lit book club that Vanessa is a part of and is a wonderful participant in. I am also a writer of Kidlit and lover of all things diverse. I am a physical therapist, so I find like learning about disabilities and trying to write them and portray them correctly is really important to me. And all throughout school, I actually didn't learn about SMA, and the first time I heard about SMA was from Vanessa. So and I watched the two interviews, but it's been a while. So I'm like, well, now I have to go back and rewatch them to see those differences, because that's what I was wondering for you. But anyways, I am very happy to be here and to be questioning Vanessa in the hot seat.
Yes. And I see Heather's with us today. Hi, Heather.
Hi.
Glad you can make it. So, so like I said, we're just going to be talking about SMA and my experience, but keep in mind, this is just my experience. Listen to tons of voices, tons of different people with SMA to get a full picture, and make sure you do your research. So, I say that every time. So I will let Holly take the reins from here.
Cool. Okay, so we do know your preferred pronouns because you always have them attached to your title, as do I. So you were starting to say that you have SMA type 2. So why don't you go into what is your disability?
Yeah, so spinal muscular atrophy is the name of it, SMA for short. There are 4 types. So type 1 is the one that usually affects babies, newborn, to about 6-7 months, is when they usually diagnose them. Type 2, which is what I have, usually get diagnosed between ages 7 months to about 18 months. So still baby toddlers. And then type 3 is young children and young adults. So you can develop it later on as a young adult. And then type 4 would be later onset when you're an adult. So mine, which is type 2, So I was diagnosed when I was about two, around 2.5. Um, so my mom noticed. So I'll back up a little bit. So part of the symptoms that you'll see with type 2 babies is they might be able to sit up on their own, but they can't stand or walk on their own. They have very weak arms and legs. Um, and so when I was a baby, my mom noticed I never started walking like other kids. Um, I could I could stand if someone was holding me, but the minute you let go, I will flop back to the ground. So I couldn't stand on my own, couldn't, never took steps on my own to walk. And so she knew something was up. And so we were living in Haiti at the time, which is where my parents are from. And so uh, when I was about 2, she came to the US to try to find doctors and see what was wrong. And that's when I was diagnosed with SMA type 2. And basically, with this disability, in simple terms, what it does is the muscles in your body atrophy over time, so it gets weaker and weaker over time. So as you get older, you lose muscle strength and you become weaker. So that's pretty
Mhm.
much the gist.
Yeah, that's interesting because I know, like, learning the different motor milestones, you have to be like most babies learn to walk around a year. That's kind of like that. Some are a little sooner, some are a little bit later, but the year is kind of like that milestone. So if you said at 2.5 years and they were like, okay, something's going on.
Well, she knew earlier, like
Hmm.
around that time, because I never walked, but it
Hmm.
took time for her to be able to come here to see doctors. So that's why I was diagnosed 2.5. Yeah.
Yeah, that's interesting. Um, and so with once you were diagnosed, what did that look like? What was that like for you? Um,
Um, Honestly, since I was so young, I was a baby, I didn't, I really don't remember, what I could say about how it was like. I know growing up, you know, things were different for me. I had to do things uh, differently, and um, I got my first chair, my first power chair, when I was really young, still in elementary school. They used to call me Speedy Gonzalez because I loved to speed down the hallways.
That's awesome.
Uh, yeah, so I yeah, I don't remember too much about the actual diagnosis, but I know um, as I grew up, like just having different experiences, and some were cool, like speeding down the hall and stuff, and being able to move around on my own for the first time. Because before that, I had either manual chair, and before that, just um, I was still really young, so mainly my mom brought me around in the strollers and stuff. And so just finally having that independence and being able to go wherever I want was the best. Um, and yeah, there are different things which I can get into as we get into more questions.
Okay, cool. So, do you prefer the term person with a disability or disabled person? And I know you talk about this in your book too.
Yes. Honestly, I really don't care. Uh, you can say, you can refer uh, as person with a disability to me or disabled person. I don't care either way. Me, myself, I typically say disabled person because it's shorter, easier to say.
Hmm.
Um, but for someone else referring to me, I really don't care either way. So,
Cool.
uh, Heather, that's very interesting.
Yeah, I know. Actually, Heather was in the sign language club in college for like a year or two, and so then she was teaching me about all these things, like, oh, they don't like when you say call them this or something like that, and I'm like, I didn't know. So it's just always good to hear about people's experiences or to know to ask.
Yeah.
Um, so that's important.
Mhm.
Yeah. So, in what ways do you think you've been treated differently because of your disability?
Mm. Well, obviously, I can't, there's a lot that I can't do that other kids could do. Um, and so that was one way where, like, my my mom was somewhat protective when I was she's gotten better about it, but she was a little bit overprotective when I was younger. Because and I remember some things I wanted to do on my own when I was younger. She was nervous about me doing like cooking. I always wanted to cook. I like to cook, right? And
Mhm.
she never wanted me near the stove because she was afraid I'd get hurt, I'd burn, and all those stuff. And then in middle school, we had a babysitter that would watch us in the afternoon and weekends when my mom was at work. She let me cook all the time. I mean, simple. It was just eggs, simple eggs over the stove. Um, but I got to do it myself for the first time. I was like, yes, this is awesome. But at the same time, I did have some of the oil splash out on my arms.
Oh
Like, I'm not telling her that happened.
no. Yeah, that's like when you're a kid and you make mac and cheese and you're like, I cooked, so it's still a big deal. Still
Yeah,
considered cooking.
yeah.
Yeah. Um were you having any problems with your like upper extremity function, or so to like warrant her being concerned about that, or
Well, my my arms have always been weak, so it's not like I I don't know how to explain it. It's not
Mhm.
like I have trouble doing certain things. It's just like my arms are weak, so things that are no big deal for others to lift up or hold or carry is heavy for me. So, like for
Mhm.
instance, a full gallon of milk that is too heavy for me to lift up on my own. Um, so it's just stuff like that that she was worried about, like with cooking, have me having to lift heavy pots and pans and stuff like that. So
Mhm. That makes sense. But you did it. And then now do you cook a lot? Mm.
Somewhat, not a lot, but um, I do have me and my brother cook, um, and it's kind of a little bit of a joke in our family because um, my my brother doesn't know how to cook, but he can follow instructions. So he's basically my hands, and I tell him what to do, and he does it. So it's like um, whenever I say I cooked or something, they're like, "Did you cook or did Ash cook?" Well, he physically did it. I told him what to do, so I cooked.
Yes, yeah. You both did. He helped.
Heather said the term deaf is usually preferred over hearing impaired.
Got it. Okay. Thanks for the reminder. Um, so we kind of went into this a little bit, but in what ways do you think your childhood was, oh, this one was, how is your childhood the same as other kids without disabilities?
Um, well, there was some stuff that I still got to do as other kids. So, you know, when I was younger, uh, we lived in Florida for a time, and we had cousins that lived in Orlando, and one of them worked at the Disney World parks, and so we would get tickets every summer. We would go to Disney World, um, and so that was great. And being able to go to Disney World, go to Magic Kingdom, all the different uh, parks, and do the rides and stuff. Which some of the rides, I'm like, I love them, but they also terrified me. Like, have you gone? I don't know if you've been to Disney World, but they have the Tower of Terror, right?
I've only been to Universal Studios and Six Flags. So like if it's like the giant drop,
Yeah,
yeah.
it's that ride where, oh my gosh, that ride. Yeah, but at the same time, I'm like, how do I not have a heart attack after getting off that ride? Because even though I've been on it before, the first drop always still takes me by surprise. Cause
Yes.
like they're talking and talking and telling the story, and then all of a sudden it just drops you.
Oh my gosh.
I was just like, oh my goodness. So there's that. There's other rides I've gone on. There's some that I'm like, no, I can't. I've done it once, never again. Like the one where you go, like, it's like a log thing, and then it goes down like a waterfall. I forget what the name
Oh.
of it is, but that one I held on so tight to my cousin because I was certain I was gonna fall off that ride. Because
Mhm.
the thing is, they just have like the bar in front of you, right? And me at the time when I was young, when I was a kid, I was small, so that bar would do nothing to hold me in, and I don't have the strength to hold on to the bars. Like, if I'm not holding on to my cousin, I'm falling off this ride.
Yes. Uh, that's
Yeah.
how I feel with like roller coasters where I'm like, yeah, like Raging Bull, if you've ever been on that with Six Flags, but like the drop is so steep and there's just a little like thing that goes in your lap, but I'm holding on for dear life because I'm like, and then other people have their hands up. I'm like, how are they doing this? Because like I'll be the one to slip out, you know?
Yeah, that's how I felt. So
That's so
never
fun.
again did I go on that ride ever again. Yeah, so that's some of the ways it's the same. And also, just in school, going on trips with the class, our eighth grade class, I think we went to Disneyland in California.
Cool.
Um, I got to go on that. And then I was part of FBLA in high school, which is Future Business Leaders of America. And so went on trips with the club to different competitions around our state. So we did that.
That's fun. Cool. You are a business leader. It worked.
Oh, surprisingly, because the club was fun, but I never saw myself as a business person.
Yeah, yeah. Some people are like, I'm either a leader or a follower or a little bit of both. Like I could like take over a couple things. So were you this is what I want to know. Were you involved in any treatments or therapies for your disability? And if so, what was the process like?
Yeah, so I did two treatments, which I wish these were around when I was a kid. I'm glad they are now, but I can only imagine if I was still a kid, I would probably still be stronger than I am now. But the first treatment I did was back in 2018. So these are all new drugs. These are drugs that are less than 10 years old. So when I
Wow.
started, the first one is Spinraza. And when I started Spinraza back in 2018, it had only been out a couple years, I think maybe 2 years. Um, and with Spinraza, it's an injection you get in your spine every 3 4 months, 3 to 4 months, I think. Um, yeah, so you go, they give you the injection in your spine, um, and then you rest for a bit afterwards, and then you can go home. Um, but obviously, not a fun experience, especially because my back, I have scoliosis as well. So
Mm,
uh, they kind of have to, it's weird when they give me the injection, they kind of have to go from my side and find their way to the spot they need to get to in my spine
yeah.
before they can do the injection. And sometimes they will hit a nerve ending as they're trying to,
Oh.
and that hurts like hell. I'm like,
Oh.
uh,
Do they give you an a local like anesthetic or
they numb the area that they're
okay.
gonna go in.
But it still doesn't help with the nerve.
Yeah, no, they numb the area, but it's still those nerve endings.
Yeah.
They hurt. But luckily, uh, they had another. Because while I was on Spinraza, there was another drug that was like kind of in the trial phase. And once it became available, I switched over to that immediately. So that's what
Nice.
I take now. And it's called Everesty. And it's basically just oral medication you take every morning or once a day. Um, yeah, and kind of like Spinraza does the same thing. The treatments are basically just to help maintain. your level where you are at and make sure you don't progress and get worse. And so that's what the treatments are supposed to be for. Although in some cases, they do help you regain a little bit of strength, which I did notice for myself when I started Spinraza. Because right around that time, I was starting to lose more strength in my arms. And then when I started the Spinraza, I noticed I got some of that back. So,
Awesome.
yeah.
Yeah, that was what I was curious about was like, does it help like slow the, degeneration of like the motor neuron or um yeah, kind of more of like a maintenance therapy in a
Yeah,
way.
yeah.
Yeah.
So it helps to maintain where you are, which is why I wish I had it when I was younger, because I would have maintained a lot more strength.
Right. So you didn't have like you've never had any physical therapy or anything like that?
Yeah, I did that as well. Kind of off and on for years. I've done physical and occupational therapy. Um, I tried to maintain the strength that I have, try to make sure my muscles don't get too tight,
Mhm.
and kind of stretch out my arms and legs and stuff. Um, so I've done those off and on for years. Of course, insurance is not great about paying for ongoing therapy. So you have a certain amount of sessions per year. And after that, which, they do give you, uh, the therapist does give you like exercises and stuff that you can do at home.
Mhm.
But me, I not good at what doing stuff on my own. Oh, if I'm not going into therapy, chances are I'm not doing it.
Yeah, you're not the only one. It's hard. A lot of people would want to keep coming to therapy forever just for that like
Hmm.
accountability,
Yeah.
So it's hard to do. I get, even for me, I'm like I feel ya. I wouldn't want to do this every day. I wouldn't do it every day.
The only time I ever did therapy is when I actually went in to do it. Whoops. Heather says, cool day of treatments available now. Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I take it the medication is covered by your insurance.
Finally, it took me like appealing and fighting them to pay for it. And actually, the Everesty that I'm on now, they still haven't approved to pay for it. And that one is cheaper than the Spinraza. I'm like,
Oh.
you guys, I fought you to pay for the Spinraza. You finally did. Now I'm giving you a cheaper medication treatment, and you don't want to pay for that.
It's just all the game. Like that's like the worst part of any, yeah, like treatment, therapy. It's just fighting with the insurance and
Yeah.
trying to get the care that you know that you need. So,
Luckily, the companies that uh, came up with Spinraza and the Everesty, they have programs where if insurance won't cover it, and you are eligible, like financially eligible for the program, they will cover the cost.
oh, that's awesome.
Mhm.
Man.
Yeah.
So, going to the next question, do you have a caregiver that helps you with daily tasks or are there some things that you need help with? If so, can you share some of the tasks that you get help with?
Yes, so I do have a caregiver to help me morning and night. Basically, um, need help with all of daily living stuff. So getting out of bed, getting into the shower, getting dressed, changed, pretty much all of that. And then once I'm up in my chair and I can pretty much get by on my own for the day if I have things set up. So, like if before anyone leaves, we make sure to have whatever I'm going to eat, whatever I need to drink, set up where I can get to it, I can reach it easily. Um, and then I'm usually good for the day. And then
Yeah.
I'll need help in the evenings to change and get ready for bed.
Mhm. Nice. Do you have like any oh, that was the next question or the second that was question 11. That's so funny because I was it was segueing into any equipment, like any equipment or modifications that you need to use to make your environment accessible.
Yeah. So I have I can show this thing.
Yes, the grabber.
Yes. This is very handy for anything I drop on the floor or something. I can get it with this. Sometimes I'm still too lazy to even try to pick it up with this, so I'll wait for someone to come and get it. But yeah, this helps with getting a lot of stuff. Um, and then I have my Amazon Echo device. So there have been times where I've dropped my phone on the floor. So I will just tell her, hey, call Ashley. I'll call my brother and be like, I dropped my phone. Can you come get it?
That's
Uh,
awesome.
yeah. And then our front door is the August lock that you can lock and unlock on your phone. And then um, we're actually moving to next week. We're to a condo, and I told my brother I plan on eventually making the entire condo a smart condo, so
Oh.
I can access and do everything myself. So our last house, we had a smart thermostat, and I had the app on my phone so I can turn it on and off. I have a small heater by my desk because I'm always cold. So I can use my device to turn the heater on and off. Um, I do want to eventually get like the smart blinds for the window blinds,
Yeah.
because I like to have the windows open during the day, in the morning during the day. But I can't open them unless someone opens them, and sometimes I forget to tell them to open it. So I want to make those smart as well, so I can just open and close with my phone, or with my device, Amazon device. Um, yeah, so kind of want everything, pretty much building a smart house. I have a smart microwave,
Ooh.
and I just got a smart air fryer.
What? I didn't know those exist. That's awesome.
I didn't know they existed either, and so like a year ago or so, and since then I'm like, I want that. It makes it so easy because sometimes when the our fryer right now, our air fryer, when it's up on the counter, um, some of the buttons are not easily. Um, I'm not able to reach them easily where it's
Mhm.
at the height it's at. So having a smart one where I can do it on my phone makes it so much easier.
Yay. Yeah, I never even thought about, like, just things that people have in their homes, like, for their own convenience that is, like, really vital to your, kind of independence and, like, even Alexa, so that's really cool.
Yeah.
And so then all of the homes that you've lived in and this condo, like, is it all one level? Have you ever had to, like, does your home have a ramp and how does that work?
Yeah, the condo is one level. It's all one level. Uh, this house we're in right now, we're renting it. This is one story, one level. We do have a ramp in for the um, front door, and the backyard has a ramp because there's like a little step to get up to get inside.
Mhm.
So we have a ramp there, but the condo is all flat. We don't need ramps at all. Um,
Nice.
and then the house we were in previously before this one, um, the same thing. We had the ramp to get in the front yard or front door, and the one to go to the backyard. That house was actually that was my mom's house, and it was 2 stories. So I my room was downstairs, obviously. So I could go anywhere downstairs. I just never been upstairs.
Yeah, cool. So, people with disabilities often face discrimination, especially in the workplace. Were there any times in your life you felt discriminated against because of your disability, and how did you handle it?
Definitely, uh, definitely in the workplace, which is why I asked that question to my other two hosts or interviews. But yeah, one. So a lot of jobs, I feel like um, I will not. I will get to the interview part and try to interview, but then never hear back. And most of the time, I do believe it's because of my disability. And one job in particular that I had, my first one after I finished school, that one was definitely disability related because my supervisor hired me for the job, um, and my supervisor is great. I actually had him. He was my supervisor when I did my internship at Salvation Army, and so I
Nice.
already knew him going in, and he is absolutely great and really supportive. Um, but when the owner found out that he hired me, she did not like that. And basically didn't think I could do the job or be up to doing the job. And then so that year, so I started that job in January 2015.
Mm,
And by the end of the year, November, December time, I had gotten sick, and
mhm.
I had I got pneumonia, and I was in the hospital for a couple weeks.
Oh my gosh.
And my supervisor knew this. They all knew this. I had the doctor note or whatever. But because to me, what I feel like happened was because she didn't want me there to begin with. So I feel like it was kind of her way to find a way to let me go because I had tried to get FMLA since I had to miss work being in the hospital. Um, but for FMLA, you have to be at the company at least a year. And this happened in December, so it's like just just barely under a year.
Oh.
And so kind of use that as like, well, you weren't eligible for FMLA, you missed all these days, we're gonna have to let you go.
Oh my gosh.
So yeah, definitely knew that one was
Yeah.
definitely disability related, especially because there halfway through the year there was an issue which my made my supervisor so mad he almost quit over it because I had initially was hired on as a behavioral health tech, and then halfway through, because I was still waiting on my licensure for counseling,
Mm-hmm.
and I had already submitted the application and stuff. I was just waiting on the board to get back to me to get my licensure stuff. And my supervisor knew this, and he was like, you know what, we can have you start doing therapy and working with the clients one on one. So he switched me into a therapist role halfway through, and that should come with the pay increase.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, it was an issue getting that pay increase.
Oh my gosh.
And he, you know, like I said, he's great. He was very supportive. So he helped with dealing with the whole situation. But um, he was so mad about what happened, he almost quit.
Yeah. Good. You had someone who had your back and
Yeah.
because like I mean, especially nowadays, it's like it's crazy how much things have changed with like the medications. Heather, I'm gonna beat these people.
Yeah.
Me too. With the medications and just like not allowing this like work discrimination. And I know like when I had been applying for jobs and they specifically ask like when you apply, like if you have a disability, and they list all these different disabilities and it could range from SMA to just anxiety, but you just had to say yes or no, and then it gives a little thing saying like we promote diversity in the workplace, like at least 7% of our employees have a disability. So they're taking steps, which is good. But that's just, I'm so sorry that you had to go through that because that wasn't fair to judge you on your disability and not look at could you do the tasks that were required of you for that job. Like it's part of their ignorance of not knowing, you know, where your strengths and limitations are. Um,
Yeah. And that's unfortunately that is a lot of places and a lot of people. I think I might have put the statistic in my book, but I don't remember it exactly. But
mhm.
people with disabilities are a lot less. um, are employed at a much higher, unemployed at a much higher rate than people without.
Mhm. Right. So, speaking about your book, I so I read your book. I loved it. I um referenced it and it came at the perfect time because there is a character in my book which you know that has muscular dystrophy in the book that I'm writing, and so I while I was going through editing, I actually like used a lot of those points to make sure that I implemented that, and it was very helpful. So was there anything that you learned from writing coming up with the book and um, researching things?
Um, Anything I learned?
Or I guess any like bigger takeaways that you kind of got from writing that and sharing it.
Yeah, I think I think most of what's in there is stuff that I already knew. I already had learned or had experience with um, growing up, but I think the I guess the biggest takeaway or thing that I learned was just um, how our system is not set up for those with disabilities, which I already knew, but like the lengths that some would go or have to go through to be able to get the support they need. Like I talked about in the book, um, the article that I referenced where the couple, um, I think they were married but then divorced so that the spouse that was disabled could keep their benefits. Because that's something that, if you are disabled and you get married, you do risk uh, losing your benefits, some or all of them, um, by getting married. And so some people will, for that reason, not ever get married. They may have a partner they live with, and, in all other circumstances, you know, live as a married couple, but without the official marriage documents because of that. Um, so that was one thing I think I took away because I never really thought too much about that before I read in the book.
Mm-hmm.
Um, yeah, just
Yeah.
things because I know even with like even working, if you are working, there are certain limits to what you can do in order to keep your benefits. So even when working, that's something you have to be kind of mindful and careful about because when I was working before as a counselor, obviously I made too much
Mm-hmm.
to keep my SSI, which is fine. I don't need that. But the Medicaid is what I need to be able to keep to have my caregivers and have the treatments that I get. And
Mm-hmm.
so that I am glad I did not lose that. And that was something I learned afterwards was um, with that you you can still keep your Medicaid benefits if you're making past a certain amount, but you would just like pay a premium or pay something into it.
Okay.
So yeah, but that was something that I was worried about when they first contacted me. I was like, my this?
That's crazy because it's like it's still, it doesn't change the fact that you still need this medication, that you still need help, and yeah, so
And working just because you're working and you are making an income, medical expenses are expensive. So I don't know why they think that's going to you're gonna all of a sudden be able to cover medical expenses just because you're working.
right. It's like they're like punishing you for trying to, you know, pursue something and contribute, make contributions to society or follow a passion, but so it just doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, yeah. Heather says such a broken system. It is. It is.
Yeah. And so, speaking of writing, so you have your Writing Diverse Characters book. So, what have your experiences been with writing any fiction? Have you written any characters with SMA or with disability?
Um, I've written a couple disabled characters, none with SMA though, or muscular dystrophy.
Okay.
Um, yeah, there was a book I had originally thought to write with an SMA character, which would basically be a lot based on a lot of my own experience. Um, but then one day I was browsing Barnes and Noble and I was like, oh, this book already exists? What? And I read it and I loved it. I already packed it. I forgot I should have left it out, but I already packed it and brought it to the condo. But it's called A Chance to Fly um, by Ali. I forget her last name, but it's two authors on there, and one of them has a disability, not mine, not SMA or anything, but I believe she was in an accident when she was a kid, and she became paralyzed. Um, and I think she was paralyzed from the waist down. And so she is in a wheelchair and she loves to sing, she loves to act, and she has this dream to um, become an actress and be on Broadway and musicals and stuff.
That's so
But
cool.
when she became disabled, she didn't um, she was kind of unsure about that dream because of her disability, but then she auditions for when she moves to a new town with her family. There's this play that's being put on in her town, and she auditions and gets a role in it, and super excited. And that's kind of where the story starts off. And I just loved that story. I it was it was very very similar to the story I wanted to write because I had this idea of a character with my disability who wants to be an actress and singer, but doesn't think that they could because they've never seen that, which is why representation is so important. Um, because that was, and I think I kind of shared this a little bit in the beginning of my ebook, but that was something that I've always wanted to do when I was younger. I love acting and singing. I was in choir all through school and high school, and it was something that I love to do, but never never thought I could because I didn't see anyone like me acting or singing or doing any of that stuff. And so I was like, well, they're never gonna hire the disabled girl to be an actress and act. So I guess I have to find something more practical and realistic. So that's why I was like, I wish I had a book like that when I was younger and saw actors like this when I was younger, because I might have tried to seriously pursue it and be like, I'm gonna give it a shot because why not? There's others doing it. I could probably do it too. So
Yeah,
that's why I think representation is so important.
most definitely. And I think you still could write that book. It's going to be your own spin. Um, and yeah, it's on my TBR as well. Um, so I'll have to read it this month since I finished Wild Seed Witch. um, that's exciting. Yes, when you start writing it, let me know so I can be a beta reader. um, Now, can you tell us about your diversity reading services, like um, how you started it, kind of your experience with it? Have you been able to do any diversity reads, and what has that been like?
Yeah, I've only did a couple so far. Uh, Two have been for Black characters. One was for disabled character. And so in the diversity read, I don't remember how it was that this was a couple years ago, so I don't remember how it was that I first learned about sensitivity reading.
Mm-hmm.
But when I did, I was like, oh, this is interesting. And I was like, this seems like something I would want to do because there are a lot of writers that I'm like, no, what are you, no, don't do that. Like, I talked about it in the book. If for anyone who's not caught up on Arrow, you're
Oh.
gonna get a bit of a spoiler. But Felicity's character, when she becomes disabled, I was so pissed with what they did that season because I was like, yes, wait. I mean, it's horrible the way she became disabled, but
Mhm.
I was like, we're gonna have a disabled character rep on Arrow. This is great, and she's a badass. This is even better. And and they could have done so much with their character. It was such a missed opportunity, and they really didn't waste much time. It was a couple episodes later, I think. I don't remember exactly how many, but it was just a couple episodes later where she's healed and she is walking. There's a new tech that apparently helps her to walk again. Um, and I was just like,
No.
mm. So I have a whole chapter in the book on magical or technological cures for disability, especially because, you know, not only was that, I think, a wasted opportunity,
Mm-hmm.
it was, it also is kind of a slap in the face and erases the
Mm-hmm.
disability of characters. It's like, what's the point of you creating this disabled character only to have them magically healed a few moments later? Like,
Right.
you're not really giving us representation. You're erasing it right after the fact.
Right.
So don't do that.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, that was kind of what made me go, you know what, I would love to work with writers, authors and writers and stuff, and just, talk about how to portray characters that have a different background than you, and how to what stereotypes to avoid. Like with Me Before You, that was another big one.
Mm-hmm.
Like what stereotypes to avoid, and what misconceptions are out there, and how we can help change that narrative. So
Yeah.
that's kind of how I got into it, and so now I have, for the diversity reading services I offer, is for disability representation, especially spinal muscular atrophy, um, Black representation, ADHD, uh, bisexual, atheist slash ex Christian. Um, yeah, so those, and then anxiety, depression as well. So those are kind of the uh, areas, sensitivity or diversity areas that I read for. And then I also, on my site, have a directory of other diversity readers with a range of different experiences. So
That's awesome. It's so valuable, and you like offer such good resources and bring so much value to the world with your services. So I appreciate that. And I can only imagine, like, people misrepresenting your abilities or disabilities, because even with me, when I see like physical therapy or like something wrong, and I'm like, didn't they have someone look, they're holding the crutch on the wrong side, or they they wouldn't have just had them get out of bed without a physical therapist and a gait belt, and so I get like super mad, and I'm like, this is just like my profession, it's like not like my identity. So, or like, so I can only imagine when you see anything like misrepresentation.
yeah.
And speaking of that, uh what do you think are some misconceptions people have had about you?
Um, so I feel like the most common misconception is that, because I have a physical disability, I probably have a cognitive or intellectual disability as well. And that was probably one of the reasons I was so academically competitive in school, because I did not like that misconception. And so I always did well in school. But yeah, I think that's the most common uh, that I get. And then another one, sometimes I don't get it that much, but I know um, in the disability community, this might be something that comes up for people, is that we're asexual or not interested in dating or relationships or anything like that.
Mhm.
Um, so yeah, another misconception is that, um, or if it's not that, people usually don't think that we're queer. So either we're not interested in a relationship, or if we are, we're strict. And I am not. So uh, that, yeah, that's another one.
Yeah. You always have the perfect segue into the next question, I swear. So speaking of relationships, have you been in a dating relationship before? If so, what was it like, if you can share? And was it an interabled relationship or did you both have a disability?
I have not been in any long-term relationships. I've tried online dating in the past and have gone on a few dates, but nothing that ended up being long term. One of them was with someone else with a disability as well, who uses a wheelchair as well. And yeah, that one, we did a couple dates, but again, didn't turn into long term. The other one, all the other ones have been non disabled. So,
Mhm.
yeah.
Did you find did you think that like your personalities just didn't mesh or like did they know about your disability beforehand? Do you think that
Yeah, they know about it beforehand, because even when I did the online dating, I'm very clear and upfront on my profile. It will say I have a disability. I use the wheelchair to get around. So if that's not something you want, keep moving along. Um, so yeah, all of them are clear upfront and no. But it was just not. Mm, Personality wise, I don't even know if I would say personality wise, because it wasn't really a clash in personality. It just wasn't the right fit.
Mhm. Yeah. Online dating is so hard. So it's like it's just like kudos to you for like trying it because like it seems like a scary world out there. Swipe right. I don't know any of that.
Some of them, I'm like, yeah, that's why why I haven't been back.
So, next question is there's so much more to a person than just their disability. So, can you share more about you and what your hobbies are, what you're passionate about?
Yeah, so, well, I have a million different interests and passions and hobbies. Um, this is something that I did not realize until I got my ADHD diagnosis, that, oh, okay, that's why. Because when I was a kid, I wanted to do everything. Um, and it would have been easier to just ask me, what don't I want to be when I grow up? Because I will tell you everything. Um, so I love a lot of different things. Like we talked earlier about cooking. That's something that I like. Uh, Singing, acting is something. Obviously, writing. reading. Um, there's so much like yesterday or the day before, the night before, I saw something that led me down the ADHD rabbit hole trail, which I posted a post on Facebook about this, which I thought you liked.
Oh, yeah.
Um, my rabbit hole down learning about uh, dolphins and the fact that dolphins, my favorite sea creatures, are killers and rapists. And I was like, why?
It was so sad and just like, what?
Yeah, the interesting facts that you learn about animals. So I went down that rabbit hole of learning the dark side about dolphins, which led me to look up, what other animals kill for fun, murder for fun, um, and learning about all these other animals as well. And I was talking to my therapist yesterday about this because I was like, this sucks. Because, when I was a kid, I actually wanted one of the things I wanted to do was be a marine biologist because I love dolphins.
Aww. Forever scarred now. It's like, it's ruined.
It is. Yeah. So, pretty much um, wherever my ADHD brain is interested in at the moment, that is what my hobby or passion will be. So it changes all the time depending on whatever stimulates me at the moment.
I love that because you're like well versed and it like helps you learn so many new things and it like grow your skills and so that's fun.
Yeah, it is, which is why traditional schooling is difficult sometimes, especially for kids with ADHD. Because I'm like, it's interesting because I was telling my therapist like some of the things I had no interest in when I was learning about them in school. Um, Obviously I couldn't, my brain didn't take any of it in at that time because I had no interest in it at that time. But now I've started to become interested in it, and now I'm soaking it everything up and like learning things super quick.
Nice. Yeah, my husband has ADHD and it's like he's gone from like learning the Rubik's Cube to lock picking to custom mechanical keyboards. Now he's into bodybuilding and Final Fantasy. So it's like, I see the jump. I'm like, you're very like well rounded because of your ADHD. This is actually.
Yeah, right now for me it's like um home interior design and home organization and stuff.
Fun. Well, it's fitting for you moving to your new place. So cool. So I think that was all the questions.
Well, thank you, Holly, for being here today on my channel and getting to ask all these questions and giving me a chance to be on the other side of things.
Wasn't as bad, right?
Yeah,
And I thank you for having me and asking me to be your interviewer. I was honored, and then I had a lot of fun.
thanks. So, all of the links I mentioned before are down in the description below. All of Holly's links are down there as well, so go check out her channel and give her a follow. Um, Heather, thanks for joining us as well.
Thanks, Heather.
It was great having you here with us in the chat. So yeah, so if anyone is interested in checking out the other Writing Diversity interviews, the playlist is below. And my ebook, my course, all of that is down below as well. So thanks, everyone. And I will see you guys next month. September, right? Yeah, September 5th, I believe, is my next interview with a Black atheist. So that'll be interesting.
Fun. Looking forward to it.
So that's it for today. Bye, guys.
Bye.